The sounds of 1960 shaped music forever. Join us as we explore 10 unforgettable hits from an incredible year of music. By 1960, Elvis Presley had returned from his military service in Germany and was facing a crossroads in his career. His manager, Colonel Tom Parker, pushed him towards a more mainstream sound and a Hollywood career that many music historians now believe damaged his artistic integrity. It's Now or Never, based on the Italian song O Sole Mio, represented this shift in style, more operatic and less raw than his 1950s recordings. This transformation divided fans, with some embracing his mature sound, while others felt he had abandoned his rebellious roots. The relationships between Elvis, Parker, and record executives revealed the often exploitative nature of the music industry, with Elvis having far less control over his career than most people realized. A fascinating detail about It's Now or Never is that Elvis nearly didn't record it. After hearing Mario Lanza's rendition of O Sole Mio while stationed in Germany, Elvis became determined to create his own version, but RCA had to negotiate special rights to create new English lyrics. The song went on to sell over 20 million copies worldwide, making it one of the best-selling physical singles of all time. Elvis practiced for hours to hit the high notes in the song, pushing his vocal range beyond what many thought possible and silencing critics who dismissed him as merely a performer rather than a serious vocalist. The Drifters were far from a conventional band. They were essentially a brand name, with a revolving door of talented black performers who often weren't properly compensated for their work. The group was originally formed in 1953, but by 1960, none of the original members remained. Manager George Treadwell owned the name The Drifters and hired and fired members at will, paying them as little as possible while keeping most of the profits. The lineup that recorded Save the Last Dance for Me was fronted by Ben E. King, who would soon leave the group over financial disputes. This manipulation of black artists was common in an era when record companies and managers exploited racial inequality to maintain control over performers and their work. Behind the smooth sound of Save the Last Dance for Me lies a story of music industry power dynamics that still resonate today. The Drifters were producing hit after hit in 1960, including This Magic Moment and Save the Last Dance for Me. But the performers were paid only $100 per week with no royalties. Meanwhile, Treadwell and the songwriters, Doc Pomus and Mort Schumann, earned substantial ongoing income. Ben E. King's departure to pursue a solo career with Stand By Me highlighted the unfair treatment. In more recent years, surviving members of various Drifters lineups have fought legal battles over the group's name and legacy, with at least 5 different groups claiming to be the Drifters at one point. Despite the behind-the-scenes turmoil, their Atlantic Records catalog has been preserved and celebrated for its musical innovation. Brenda Lee started performing professionally at age 6 and was only 15 when she recorded I'm Sorry in 1960.
I'm sorry, so sorry.
Often called Little Miss Dynamite due to her powerful voice, despite standing just 4 feet 9 inches tall, Lee was marketed as a child novelty act before proving herself a legitimate artistic force. Her manager, Dub Allbritton, became her legal guardian, raising questions about child labor and exploitation in the music industry. Record executives initially resisted releasing I'm Sorry, believing its mature theme of romantic regret was inappropriate for a teenage girl to sing, revealing how the industry often restricted female artists based on outdated moral standards, while allowing male artists more creative freedom. Though remembered by many today primarily for her Christmas standard, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree.
Rocking around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party.
Brenda Lee was actually one of the most commercially successful female performers of the 1960s. She charted more songs on the Billboard Hot 100 during the 60s than any other female solo artist, outperforming Aretha Franklin, Diana Ross, and Barbra Streisand. Despite this incredible commercial success, Lee struggled to maintain her career as musical taste changed with the British invasion. In her later career, she found greater acceptance in the country music world, being inducted into both the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Country Music Hall of Fame. Today, at 79 years old, Lee remains one of the most successful crossover artists in American music history, though she's rarely given the critical recognition her male contemporaries received. I'd love to hear your memories of these songs. Share your stories in the comments. Hit that like button if these songs bring back memories. And subscribe for more journeys through the music that defined our generation. Your experiences are what make these songs timeless. So, let's preserve those memories together. Roy Orbison's path to success with Only the Lonely. Came after years of rejection and commercial disappointments. Starting his career in the mid-1950s with Sun Records, the same label that launched Elvis, Orbison was initially pushed to record rockabilly music that didn't suit his remarkable voice or creative instincts. His early Sun recordings flopped, and by 1959, many industry insiders considered him a has-been. Standing in stark contrast to the handsome, charismatic stars of the day, Orbison was painfully shy, had poor eyesight necessitating his thick glasses, and eventually adopted his trademark dark sunglasses and black clothing, partly to mask his insecurities on stage. The music industry's fixation on image nearly denied audiences one of the most extraordinary voices of the century. Only the Lonely represented a complete reinvention for Orbison after signing with Monument Records. Producer Fred Foster recognized what others had missed. Orbison wasn't a limited rockabilly artist, but a vocalist with operatic range and emotional depth. The song established the dramatic Orbison sound, featuring his vulnerable falsetto and operatic structure that built to emotional climaxes. Despite this success, tragedy would define Orbison's life. His first wife died in a motorcycle accident in 1966, and two of his sons died in a house fire 2 years later. Orbison's career declined through the 1970s until a remarkable comeback in the late 80s with the traveling Wilbury Supergroup alongside Bob Dylan, George Harrison, Tom Petty, and Jeff Lynne. Sadly, just as his career was resurging, Orbison died of a heart attack in 1988, leaving behind a legacy that continues to influence artists across all genres. Sam Cooke's journey to recording Chain Gang represented the complex balance he navigated between commercial success and social consciousness. Beginning his career as a gospel singer with the Soul Stirrers in 1950, Cooke's transition to secular music was considered scandalous by many religious fans who saw it as betraying his faith for commercial gain. Behind Cooke's smooth, controlled public image was a businessman fighting against a music industry designed to exploit black artists. He founded his own record label and publishing company to maintain ownership of his work, a revolutionary move for a black artist in the segregation era. Chain Gang itself contained subtle political commentary, humanizing prisoners at a time when discussions of prison reform and racial disparities in sentencing were deeply controversial. By 1960, Cooke was pioneering a new model for black artists in the music industry, one built on creative control and business ownership rather than merely performing. While Chain Gang might sound like a simple pop song about hard labor, it represents Cooke's increasing willingness to incorporate social observation into his music. This evolution would culminate in A Change Is Gonna Come, his civil rights anthem released posthumously. Cooke's insistence on performing to integrated audiences challenged the segregation policies at many venues, sometimes leading to canceled shows and threats. His mysterious death in 1964, shot by a motel manager who claimed self-defense in an incident with many unanswered questions, cut short a career that was increasingly merging popular music with civil rights activism. Many music historians believe Cooke's trajectory would have made him a central figure in the politically charged music of the late 1960s had he lived. The Everly Brothers presented a harmonious image on stage, but the truth behind Kathy's Clown and their career reveals significant tensions. Don and Phil Everly began performing as children on their family's radio show in the 1940s. But by 1960, the brothers were trapped in a predatory publishing contract with Wesley Rose that directed much of their earnings away from them. Kathy's Clown marked their first release for Warner Brothers after leaving Cadence Records, a move that brought them a then-record $1 million contract but intensified their business disputes. The song itself centers on public humiliation and wounded male pride, themes that would characterize the brothers' own relationship as their personal conflicts eventually tore apart their professional partnership. Their perfect harmonies masked growing discord that would eventually lead to their infamous on-stage breakup in 1973. Kathy's Clown revolutionized recording techniques with its innovative double tracking of Phil Everly's voice to create its distinctive sound. This technical breakthrough influenced the Beatles, with John Lennon and Paul McCartney openly acknowledging their debt to the Everly's harmony style. The brothers' relationship deteriorated through decades of touring, with Don and Phil reportedly going years without speaking to each other outside of performances. They maintained separate dressing rooms and would only meet on stage. After their 1973 breakup, they didn't perform together for a decade. Their reunion concert at London's Royal Albert Hall in 1983 temporarily healed some wounds, but tensions persisted throughout their later career. Phil Everly died in 2014 from complications of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, leaving Don as the sole surviving brother. Don passed away in 2021, ending the story of one of popular music's most influential duos. Hey friends, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more musical memories. And hit that like button if these songs stirred something in you. Share this video with your children and grandchildren so they can understand what made the music of 1960 so special. Connie Francis faced tremendous obstacles on her path to recording Everybody's Somebody's Fool. Beginning her career in the mid-1950s, she endured a string of 11 consecutive commercial failures before finally breaking through. Her domineering father, who controlled her career and finances well into her adulthood, nearly ended her music career when he forbade her from performing Who's Sorry Now?, the song that ultimately became her breakthrough hit after Dick Clark featured it on American Bandstand. While projected as wholesome and all-American, Francis battled record executives who discriminated against her Italian-American heritage, even pressuring her to change her name from Concetta Franconero. The music industry's patriarchal structure meant Francis had to fight for artistic control in ways her male counterparts never did, with producers routinely dismissing her input on arrangements and song selection. By 1960, Francis had established herself as America's top-selling female artist, but behind her success lay significant personal struggles. Her transition to country pop with Everybody's Somebody's Fool demonstrated her versatility, but also reflected the industry's resistance to allowing female artists to establish consistent artistic identities. Throughout her career, Francis endured bipolar disorder, multiple marriages, and a horrific sexual assault in 1974 that led to years of PTSD. Despite these challenges, she staged multiple comebacks throughout the 1980s and 90s. Now in her 80s, Francis continues to advocate for victims of violent crime, having established the Connie Francis Armed Forces Entertainment Fund to help veterans' causes, inspired both by her brother, who was killed in Vietnam, and her immense popularity with military audiences during her peak years. The songs of 1960 capture a generation's hopes and heartbreaks. Remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and tell us which songs bring back your strongest memories. The music lives on through your stories.